every fight to make next in the UFC heavyweight division. Also, subscribe. Just do it. Come on, guys. The first one we're going to go into is going to be at number 15 with Sergei Pavlovich. If you look at the UFC rankings, Sergei is at number 15. He's a very inactive heavyweight fighter. That's why I'm not going to give him a top 15 fight or anything like that, because of the inactivity of Sergei Pavlovich's last fight being 2019, beating Marcelo Golm as well as Maurice Green. I would say give him a guy outside of the rankings, and one of those guys would be Tanner Boser, coming off a very good knockout win over St. Preux. Very controversial loss against Ilir Latifi, and then the loss to Andrei Arlovsky. But I would do Tanner Boser versus Sergei Pavlovich. This fight also was scheduled to happen in 2021. I'm not too sure what happened. I believe it was an injury or something like that, but the fight was already scheduled to happen, but travel issues, I guess, ended up canceling it for the Font versus Aldo card. So reschedule it. That's the first fight to be made in the heavyweight division. After that one, we go to the number 14 fighter in the heavyweight division in Walt Harris. At this time, he's in no position to be fighting anyone inside of the top 15. He's on a crazy losing streak as of right now, getting knocked out by Marcin Tybura, Alexander Volkov, as well as Alistair Overeem. And then his potential opponent being, if we can find out, I don't know how far down the rankings he is. I don't know, where is he? But Greg Hardy's somewhere on here. There he is. He's on a 2-fight losing streak to Marcin Tybura, a ranked opponent, and then Tai Tuivasa, a ranked opponent, the number 12 as well as the number 9 heavyweights in the world. But I do believe if Greg Hardy can go out there and knock out Alexei Oleinik, which I think he will do, I would love to see two knockout artists that have a lot of power in the UFC heavyweight division. Walt Harris, with pretty much every single one of his wins being a knockout, versus Greg Hardy, who also has a lot of power. And if Walt Harris wins, he gets right back in the mix of things, proving that he's a top 15 fighter. And if Greg Hardy wins, boom, he's in the top 15, and Walt Harris can finally retire. But yeah, that's a fight I think should be made in number 14 versus the unranked Greg Hardy if he does beat Alexei Oleinik. After that one, we got Blagoy Ivanov versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I forgot to write it right here, so I'll write it really quick. Rogerio de Lima. But I think this would be a very good fight in the heavyweight division. Not only because Marcos definitely deserves the fight, and Blagoy, he hasn't been too active, losing to Derrick Lewis by unanimous decision in 2019, as well as Augusto Sakai by unanimous decision in 2020. Before that, beating ranked guys like Tai Tuivasa. That's about it. That's the only ranked guy he's beat was Tai Tuivasa. Also losing to Junior Dos Santos. But right now, the number 13 guy in the heavyweight division probably should fight a guy that deserves to finally get that shot into the top 15, being Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Now, of course, Alexander Romonov also deserves a shot, and we'll get to him in the next one after this. But for right now, after those very impressive wins, getting a decision very dominantly on Maurice Green, and then destroying Ben Rothwell 32 seconds into the very first round, I would love to see him finally get the fight in the top 15. If Marcos wins, boom, he's in the top 15. We got a very explosive power puncher just interjected in the heavyweight division. And if Blagoy wins, boom, we know he's a top 15 fighter as well. So number 13 versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Then we go on to Alexander Romanov. Now, we already know Alexander Romanov does have a fight scheduled versus Ilir Latifi. That is supposed to be happening. When is that one supposed to be happening? Let's see. February 19th. So we don't have too long. It's about 1 month and 1 week until the fight happens. 15-0 Alexander Romanov versus 15-8 Ilir Latifi. Prime and then not prime right there. I personally do think that Romanov will win. He should not be this big of a favorite. That's kind of absolutely insane in my opinion, but I do believe if he does win, which I think he will, probably by decision against against Ilir Latifi, he deserves a top 15 fight. He's one of the biggest prospects in the heavyweight division right now. He deserves that top 15 fight if he beats Ilir Latifi. And a guy that doesn't really deserve to be in the top 15 after the crazy losing streak that he's been on recently would be Augusto Sakai, getting knocked out by Tuivasa, Jairzinho, Rozenstruik, and Alistair Overeem, only beating solid guys. I'll definitely say solid guys: Andre Arlovski, Marcin, Tybura, and Blagoy, Ivanov. But that was 2019 and 2020. It is 2022, so I think Augusto Sakai at this point in his career, give him an unranked up-and-coming prospect in Alexander Romonov. If Augusto wins, he proves he deserves to be in the top 15. If Romonov wins, we got an undefeated heavyweight on the rise. So Alexander Romonov versus Augusto Sakai is definitely a good fight to make. After that one, Tai Tuivasa versus Derrick Lewis. Not much we can say here. The fight is already scheduled to happen. Number 11 versus number 3. Probably wouldn't be what I would say should be next for the heavyweight division, but I like it. We got the Shui Master and Tai Tuivasa versus the Black Beast. Does a little after every knockout win in the UFC. I love the fight. Doesn't really make too much sense in terms of the rankings, but I love it. It's gonna be on the UFC 270 main card, or 271, if I'm remembering it correctly. It's going to be a banger. I cannot wait for the fight. I am going Lewis by knockout. I can definitely see Tuivasa winning by knockout, but 11 versus number 3, the rankings could totally change if Tuivasa goes out there and drinks a shoey after this one. But crazy fight there. Just got announced. I'm gonna say 2 or 3 days ago. If you want to see my prediction for that one, we did post that a few days ago as well. We also got Tom Aspinall and Shamil Abdurikhimov, another one that is already set to happen. We know a couple of the matchmaking decisions that I'm gonna make, they're already scheduled. Tom Aspinall versus Shamil Abdurikhimov is already happening on the main card of London. 40.5 years old versus 28, almost 29 years old. Definitely going Tom Aspinall to win, but number 10 versus number 8. Then we go on at number 9 and number 6. Another fight that just recently got announced about, I'll say 12 hours ago. Less than a day has passed since Marcin, Tybura, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik has been announced. Number 9 versus number 6. We just did our prediction as well. It's going to be a good fight right there. After that one, we got Chris Daukaus and Alexander Volkov. Not an official fight, but a fight I definitely think should be made next. If you look at all the other things that I've said should happen next in the UFC heavyweight division, the only real thing that leaves is Volkov versus Daukaus. Jairzinho is already fighting Marcin. Shamil is already fighting Shamil's already fighting Tom Aspinall. Marcin's fighting Jairzinho. Tuivasa's fighting over here. Blagoy doesn't deserve to go up. Augusto doesn't deserve to go up. Walt, these guys don't deserve that big of an increase in the heavyweight division. 7 and 5 are the only real open guys in this little area of the heavyweight division, and put them together for an amazing striking fight. One of the fastest strikers in the heavyweight division, slightly behind Ciryl Gane, versus one of the tallest, lengthiest guy in the heavyweight division. We saw Volkov lost to Ciryl Gane, but Ciryl Gane is much better than Chris Daukaus. But Chris has a similar style, not as much kicks or anything, but he has a similar speed to Ciryl Gane. So it'd be another good test for Alexander Volkov. It'd be a really good test for Chris Daukaus as well. So that one should be made. And number 7 versus number 5. After that one, we got Curtis Blaydes versus mini Ciryl Gane or mini Stipe Miocic. Now, the reason I put either Ciryl Gane or Stipe Miocic is mainly because I don't know who's gonna lose. We have Ciryl Gane fighting against Francis Ngannou. If Ciryl Gane loses that fight, then I would do Ciryl Gane versus Curtis Blaydes and just do that fight. If Francis Ngannou loses, I would not do Francis Ngannou versus Curtis Blaydes. But also, if Stipe Miocic fights John Jones and he loses that fight, that is a perfect scenario for Curtis Blaydes, as we have the best wrestler versus the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. The two top dogs in terms of wrestling of the heavyweight division, Stipe and Curtis Blaydes. The main event of a fight night, maybe co-main event of a pay-per-view or something like that. That'd be a really good fight as well. But That's only if Stipe does lose to Jon Jones or lose to Ngannou or Ciryl Gane in a trilogy or something like that. But overall, if Ciryl loses or if Stipe loses next, one of those guys will be Curtis Blaydes' next opponent. I've seen many interviews saying Curtis Blaydes does not want to go down in the rankings. He said he will not do it. The only guys really open for fights pretty soon would be Stipe, as well as Ciryl Gane or Francis Ngannou. So we'll have to see what the Stipe versus Jon Jones little thing is going to be. Have to see if that fight even gets made, which I think it will. Bringing me on to the next one right here is going to be Stipe Miocic versus Jon Jones. The fight should just be made. Come on, make this fight main event of a pay-per-view. Stack the card with some other, like Sean O'Malley. Just pop him on the card versus, I don't know, Luis Pena. I don't, whoever. I really don't care who they put him against, but just stack the card, put Stipe versus Jon Jones, the greatest heavyweight versus the greatest light heavyweight. That's a fight to make next. Let's go on to the next one. Is of course going to be Ciryl Gane versus the champion Francis Ngannou. That's obviously going to be the last one because the fight is already made to happen on UFC 270. But those are the fights I think should be happening next in the UFC heavyweight division. Of course, Ciryl Gane versus Francis Ngannou. If Ciryl Gane loses, I would give him to Curtis Blaydes. Also got Stipe versus Jon Jones. If Stipe loses, I would give him to Curtis Blaydes as well. We got Chris Dawkins versus Alexander Volkov, number 7 and number 5. Tybura versus Rozenstruik, number 9 versus number 6. Aspinall versus Abdurikhimov, 10 versus 8. Tuivasa versus Lewis, 11 versus 3. Sakai versus Romonov or Latifi, whoever wins that one, at number 12 versus unranked. Blagoy Ivanov versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima, another unranked fighter popping into the top 15 potentially. Number 14, Walt Harris versus Greg Hardy if he goes out there and beats Alexei Olenek. And last but not least, Sergei Pavlovich and Tanner Boser, number 15 versus unranked. But that's what I think should happen next in the UFC heavyweight division. If you guys think anything should be changed to any of these fights, honestly, put your thoughts down below in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on those post notifications. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Let's go.